Hello all, welcome to the course 19EE 409T Smart Grids and Electric Vehicles. Today we will be moving forward in our module 3 of the course, that is electric vehicles. Today we will be focusing on the basic dynamics, the basic mechanics of vehicle propulsion and braking, how the vehicle moves forward, what are the forces acting on it, and whenever we go for braking, what are the other forces acting on it, and the performance analysis in both the cases. Last couple of weeks we completed the energy storage systems, that is module 2, and introduced ourselves to the concept of electric vehicles, benefits of EVs, components of an electric car. The figures shown in our previous video were the courtesy of EDX course on electric cars by Delft University of Technology, Netherlands. Also, last week, expert talks were organized on smart grids in India, electric vehicles in India, solar thermal power plants, and RE technologies for telecom sector in India by both national and international speakers through webinars. In today's lecture, the fundamentals of a typical automotive vehicle operation will be introduced. Mathematical description of behavior of the vehicle based on general principles of mechanics will be outlined. Uh, what usually happens is when a vehicle moves on a road at an angle or horizontally, it consists of thousands of complex components, which makes it a complex system. To describe the vehicle's behavior fully, sophisticated mechanical and mathematical knowledge is needed. A large body of literature books in this field already exist, two of which have already been communicated to you. So those will become the textbooks whenever related to the part of electric vehicles of this smart grids and electric vehicles course. Uh, since the course Smart Grid and Electric Vehicle proposes to discuss electric and hybrid electric powertrains, the discussion of vehicle fundamentals will be restricted to one-dimensional movement only. Now, if you see that for a typical electric vehicle or a car, as you can see, the behavior is along its moving direction, which is completely determined by all the forces acting on it in this direction. That is the direction of movement. Let us look at a vehicle moving forward, that is moving towards the left side at a particular speed horizontally. The forces which act upon it is the force which makes the vehicle to move forward in the direction which it is intended to move. This force is called as tractive force. The tractive force, which we would be describing as Ft, in the contact area between the tires of the drive wheels and the road surface propels the vehicle forward. It is produced by the power plant torque and transferred through transmission and final drive to the drive wheels. While the vehicle is moving, there is resistance that tries to stop its movement. As you can see from the red arrow mark, which makes the force is acting in the opposite direction of the vehicle's propulsion. This resistance force usually includes the rolling resistance of the tire, aerodynamic drag of the vehicle, and uphill or climbing or gradient resistance. Now, what you are seeing on the screen is the figure which shows which is showing all the forces which acts on a vehicle which is moving up a grade at an angle of alpha. As you can see, the angle alpha is the road angle. What I really want to stress here is this may look as a complex figure, but it is very simple. After drawing the schematic of the vehicle, the two things that we need to draw first is the velocity vector v, which is in the leftmost, which shows the direction of the movement of the vehicle, the angle alpha, and then we can draw all the force vectors. Now, vehicle resistances opposing its movement include the rolling resistance of the tires, appearing in the figure as rolling resistance torques TRF in the front wheel, TRR in the rear wheel, aerodynamic drag force Fw in the front just opposite to the velocity vector v, and hill climbing resistance, which is regarded as the term mg sine alpha coming from the point O. All these resistance will be discussed in detail in the coming slides. The rolling resistance of tires on hard surfaces is primarily caused by hysteresis in the tire materials. If the tire is at standstill, that is the tire is not rotating, a force P acts at its center. The pressure in the contact area between the tire and the ground is distributed symmetrically to the central line, and the resultant reaction force Pz is aligned to the force P. Whereas when the tire is rolling as shown in the circular figure, the leading half of the contact area is loading and the trailing half is unloading. Consequently, the hysteresis causes an asymmetric distribution of the ground reaction forces. The pressure in the leading half of the contact area is of course larger than the trailing half, as you can see. In the vectors, as you can see here in the down, the vectors are given. We can show that the pressure in the leading half of the contact area is larger than that in the trailing half. This phenomena results in the ground reaction force shifting forward somewhat. This forward shifted ground reaction force with normal load acting on the wheel center creates a movement that opposes the rolling of the wheel. The movement produced by the forward shift of the resultant ground reaction force is called a rolling resistance movement as shown in the figure, and is expressed as simply as Tr is equal to P into A, where Tr is the rolling resistant torque, P is the normal load acting on the center of the rolling wheel, and A is the vehicle's acceleration. To keep the wheel rolling, a force F acting on the center of the wheel is required to balance this rolling resistance movement, as you can see in the circular figure, right side figure. This force, this rolling force, is expressed as a ratio of Tr and Rd, where Rd is the effective radius of the tire. So if we will use the expression Tr equal to Pa, we can substitute the value of Tr as Pa, and we can get the expression for the rolling resistance force F as P into Fr, where small fr is the ratio of acceleration and the effective radius of the rolling tire, and is called as rolling resistance coefficient. In this way, the rolling resistance movement can be equivalently replaced by a horizontal force acting on the wheel center in the opposite movement direction of the wheel. This equivalent force is called as rolling resistance, and of course the magnitude, as we have discussed, can be given as F is equal to P into Fr, where small fr is nothing but the rolling resistance coefficient. Now, in the previous slide, we considered that the vehicle was moving horizontally, not at an angle. Now, what would happen? What could happen to the rolling resistance force when the vehicle is operated on a slope road? The normal load P should be replaced by the component that is perpendicular to the road surface, right? Because we have to equate all the forces acting in a particular direction. The rolling resistance coefficient Fr is a function of the tire material, tire structure, tire temperature, tire inflation pressure, tread geometry, road roughness, road material, and presence or absence of liquids on the road. Now, typical values of rolling resistance coefficients on the various roads are given as shown in the figure. For fuel saving, low resistance tires for passenger cars have been developed in recent years. the rolling resistance coefficient has been less than 0.01. So as the rolling resistance coefficient reduces, the fuel low resistance tire, the resistance force becomes reduced, and thereby we can get a fuel saving. However, you can see that for the different conditions as shown in the table, the values given do not consider the coefficient variations with the speed of the vehicle and hence the speed of the rotating rolling tire. Based on experimental results, many empirical formulas have been proposed for calculating rolling resistance on a hard surface. For example, the rolling resistance coefficient of passenger cars on a concrete road may be calculated using this equation. In this equation, the velocity vehicle speed is given by capital V. F naught and Fs are the rolling coefficients which depend upon the inflation pressure of the tire. In vehicle performance calculations, it is sufficient to consider the rolling resistance coefficient as a linear function of speed. For the most common range of inflation pressure, the following equation can be used for a passenger car on a concrete road. This is a linear equation. Now this equation can be used and predicts the values of the rolling resistance coefficient with acceptable accuracy for speeds up to 120 to 130 kilometers per hour. We will now have a look and discuss about the aerodynamic drag force, which is another resistance force. A vehicle traveling at a particular speed in air encounters a force resisting its motion. This force is referred to as aerodynamic drag. Now, this aerodynamic drag force mainly results from two components. One is shape drag, which depends upon how your vehicle has been designed, in what shape. And the second is skin friction, what materials have been used and how fine the material has been used for design of the vehicle. Now, if we look into shape drag, the phenomena, the forward motion of the vehicle pushes the air in front of it. However, the air cannot instantaneously move out of the way and its pressure is thus increased, resulting in high air pressure. In addition, the air behind the vehicle cannot instantaneously fill the space left by the forward motion of the vehicle. So what happens is, because of this, a zone of low air pressure is created. The motion of the vehicle therefore creates two zones of pressure that oppose the motion by pushing and pulling the vehicle backward. The push phenomena is because of the high pressure which occurs in the front, and the pulling backward phenomena of the vehicle is due to the low pressure at the back, as can be seen through the contours diagram in the figure. The resulting force because of these two, high pressure and low pressure, on the vehicle is the shape drag. The term shape drag comes from the fact that this drag is completely determined by the shape of the vehicle body. If we look into skin friction, what happens is the air which is close to the skin of the vehicle moves almost as at the speed of the vehicle, while air away from the vehicle remains still. So in between, the air molecules move at a wide range of speeds. The difference in speed between two air molecules produces a friction that results in the second component of the aerodynamic drag. Aerodynamic drag thus is a function of the vehicle speed, the vehicle frontal area, shape of the vehicle body, and air density. Hence, the mathematical expression is dependent upon all these parameters. CD is the aerodynamic drag coefficient that characterizes the shape of the vehicle body, and VW is a component of the wind speed in the vehicle moving direction, which has a positive sign when this component is in the same direction of the moving vehicle, and a negative sign when it is opposite to the vehicle speed. When a vehicle goes up or down a slope, as you can see in the figure, its weight produces a component that is always directed in the downward direction, as can be seen by the red colored arrow. This component either opposes the forward motion, in that case we call it as a grade climbing, or helps the forward motion, in that case we call as grade descending. In vehicle performance analysis, only uphill operation is considered. This grading force is usually called the grading resistance force. Grading resistance, as can be seen from the figure, is expressed as Fg is equal to capital Mg sine alpha. To simplify the calculation, the road angle alpha is usually replaced by the grade value when the road angle is small. That means when the slope is small. The grade is defined as I is equal to capital H, that is the height, divided by the L, that is the length of the vehicle, which comes close to tan alpha, and because of small alpha angles can be written as sine of alpha. In some literature, the tire rolling resistance and grading resistance together are called as road resistance and is expressed as a summation of the grading resistance value occurring in the forward and the gear wheel. That is the rolling resistance, summation of the rolling resistance and the grading resistance. Again, this expression for a small road angle can be simplified and becomes mg is equal to fr plus I. That means it is dependent upon the rolling resistance coefficient and also on the grade I. In the longitudinal direction, the major external forces acting on a two-axle vehicle are shown in the figure as we can see. Now let us look, now that we have looked into all the resistance forces, let us now look into what is the net force which acts on a vehicle when it is moving in a direction upwards at a slope angle of alpha. We will start with the basic, and the basic is the Newton's second law of motion. The vehicle's acceleration, as you can see, is given as dv by dt equal to summation of all the traction forces and the summation of all the resistance forces moving in the opposite direction, hence the negative sign, divided by del capital M. The V, capital V, is the speed of the vehicle. Summation Ft is the total tractive effort of the vehicle. Summation Fr is the summation of the total resistance forces. Capital M will become the total mass of the vehicle. And the small angle delta is the factor that equivalently converts the rotational inertias of rotating components into translation mass for simplicity. The forces as shown in the figure acting on a vehicle under movement at a road angle alpha include the rolling resistance of the front and rear tires, which we can see as FFR, FRF and FRR, and also represented by the rolling resistance movements TRF and TRR, aerodynamic drag FW, climbing resistance Fg, which is given as mg sine alpha at a height hg from the ground, tractive effort of the front and rear tires FTF and the vector FTR. FTF is 0 for a rear wheel drive vehicle, whereas FTR will be 0 for a front wheel drive vehicle. Now, expanding this equation of Newton's second law and all the forces that we have studied up till now, we get a balance equation of vehicle motion under movement at a road angle alpha in the longitudinal direction as shown. M dv by dt will be equal to the summation of all the traction forces happening in the front and the rear end, and summation of all the resistance forces which are opposing the vehicle's movement. dv by dt will be the linear acceleration of the vehicle in the longitudinal direction. Now from this equation, the first term on the right hand side is the total tractive effort and the second term is the resistance. To predict the maximum tractive effort that the tire ground contact can support, the normal loads on the front and rear axles must be determined. So what we sum the moments of all the forces about any point capital R, that is center of the tire ground area. The normal load on the front axle is determined as shown. Similarly, the normal load acting on the rear axle is expressed as WR. Now we can see that these are very complex equations, but these are very simple to determine. And in the next slides, we will see how we use these equations and why are we using these equations. For passenger cars, the height of the center of application of aerodynamic resistance HW is assumed to be near the height of the gravity center of the vehicle Hg. That means for passenger cars, Hg is approximately equal to Hw. So equations we saw in the previous slides can be simplified as we can see here. We already know that Rd is the effective radius of the wheel. Ft is nothing but summation of Ftf plus Ftr, which is the total tractive effort of the vehicle. Fr is the total rolling resistance of the vehicle. The first term on the right hand side of these equations is the static load on the front and rear axles when the vehicle is at rest on level ground. That is the capital LB by L mg cos alpha in the first equation, capital LA by L mg cos alpha in the second equation, are nothing but represent the static load on the front if LB is being used and on the rear axle when LA is being used. What LA and LB is, we can see from the figure. LA is the distance from frontier up till the point O, and LB is the distance from the center of the rear wheel up till the point O. The second term of both these equations, as we can see, are dependent upon Rd and Hg and also Ft and Fr, are nothing but the dynamic component of the normal load. Now the maximum tractive effort that the tire ground contact can support, any small amount over this maximum tractive effort will cause the tire to spin on the ground and hence the vehicle will not move forward. This maximum tractive effort is usually described by the product of the normal load and the coefficient of the road adhesion factor or coefficient mu, as we can see. For the front wheel drive vehicle, the maximum tractive effort is given as mu into Wf, and the value of Wf in the above equation can be replaced here. Whereas the maximum tractive effort for a rear wheel drive is mu into Wr, where mu is nothing but the coefficient of road adhesion. Now here we have to note very carefully that in vehicle operation, the maximum tractive effort, that is the FTF max and FTR max, on the drive wheels transferred from the power plant through the transmission should not exceed the maximum values determined by the tire ground cohesion in the equations given here. Otherwise, the drive wheels will spin on the ground, leading to vehicle instability. Here what we are seeing right now is the schematic from the top view of an automotive powertrain. We see and the components that are being consisted by an automotive powertrain. An automotive powertrain, as we can see in the figure, consists of a power plant, which in case of electric vehicles will be electric motor, a clutch in a manual transmission or a torque converter in an automatic transmission, a gearbox, which is regarded as transmission, final drive, differential, drive shaft, and drive wheels. The torque and rotating speed from the output shaft of the power plant are transmitted to the drive wheels through the clutch or torque converter, gearbox, final drive, differential, and drive shaft. The clutch, as you can see, is used in a manual transmission to couple or decouple the gearbox to the power plant. The torque converter, on the other hand, in an automatic transmission vehicle system is a hydrodynamic device functioning as the clutch in a manual transmission with a continuously variable gear ratio. The gearbox supplies a few gear ratios from its input shaft to its output shaft for the power plant torque speed profile to match the requirements of the load. The final drive is usually a pair of gears that supply a further speed reduction and distribute the torque to each wheel through the differential. The figure which you are seeing on the right side shows the tractive effort and the torque on a drive wheel when the vehicle is movement in a direction, horizontally, but not at a slope. In such a case, the torque on the drive wheels which are transmitted from the power plant, which we have seen in the previous slide, is given as Ig I naught eta T into Tp. That means it is the function of torque output from the power plant, but depends upon the gear ratio of the transmission, which is nothing but the ratio N in by N out. Also the gear ratio of the final drive and the efficiency of all the drive line from the power plant up till to the point of drive wheels. Using basic mechanics, we can now find out the tractive effort on the drive wheels, which is given as Ft is equal to Tw divided by Rd, where Rd is nothing but the effective radius of the wheel, rolling wheel. So when we replace the value of Tw in the Ft tractive effort equation, we get the torque, the tractive effort on the drive wheels as Ft is equal to a function of Tp and Rd. It has been incorrectly written here as the torque on drive wheels transmitted from the power plant. I want you to make this as a correction. Ft equal to Tp Ig I naught eta T by Rd is nothing but tractive effort on the drive wheel. The rotating speed. Now we have seen the force. Now we will look into the mathematical expressions of the rotating speeds in RPM of the drive wheel. It can be simply expressed as Np divided by Ig I naught, where Np is the transmission system rotating speed in RPM. The transmission rotating speed is equal to the engine speed in a vehicle with manual transmission and of course turbine speed of a torque converter in a vehicle with automatic transmission. The translational speed of the wheel center is nothing but the vehicle speed V, which is expressed as pi times NWRD by 30 meters per second. Substituting these equations and using the value of NW, we get the vehicle speed as pi times NPRD divided by 30 Ig I naught. We can see here that the vehicle speed is a function of the rotating speed of the drive wheel and also the effective radius Rd. The maximum speed of the vehicle, depending upon all these parameters, the maximum speed that the vehicle can achieve is given as this. And the definition of the maximum speed, which we will see in the performance analysis in the coming slides. The performance of a vehicle is usually, any vehicle is usually described by its gradability. Gradability is nothing but defined as a grade, which is an angle figure that a vehicle can overcome at a certain constant speed. For instance, the grade at a speed of 100 km per hour, 60 miles per hour, etc. For heavy commercial vehicles or off-road vehicles, gradability is usually defined as the maximum grade or the maximum grade angle that a vehicle can overcome in the whole speed range. The next factor which describes the performance of a vehicle is acceleration. The acceleration performance of a vehicle is usually described by its acceleration time and distance covered from zero speed to a certain high speed on level ground. And this we both the gradability and acceleration is something that we see in the advertisements of vehicles also. 0 to 96 kilometers per hour, 0 to 60 miles per hour, so on and so forth. The third most important point which describes the behavior performance of a vehicle is the maximum cruising speed or the maximum vehicle speed, and the expression we saw in the previous slide. The maximum speed of a vehicle, we define the maximum speed of the vehicle as the constant cruising speed that the vehicle can attain with full power plant load. That is in case of electric vehicles, the full power of motor on a flat road. The maximum speed of a vehicle is determined by the equilibrium between the tractive effort of the vehicle and the resistance or the maximum speed of the power plant, and also the gear ratios of the transmission. It should be noted that for some vehicles, no intersection exists between the tractive effort and the resistive curve. And what we are talking about, we will see by this curve on your figure. For on-road vehicles, it is assumed that the maximum tractive effort is limited by the maximum torque of the power plant rather than the road adhesion capability. What you are seeing in the figure is a graph plot between the tractive effort in kilonewtons and the speed kilometer per hour. From the figure in the right side, you can see that the maximum speed is shown as the intersection of the tractive effort curve and the resistance on grade curve, the intersection point. Now we can note that for some vehicles, no intersection exists between the tractive effort curve and the resistance curve because of a larger power plant or a large gear ratio. In this case, the maximum speed of the vehicle is determined by the maximum speed of the power plant itself. The prediction of vehicle performance is based on the relationship between the tractive effort and the vehicle speed, as we have seen by the mathematical expression in the previous slides. What you are seeing here in this slide is the figures which shows the acceleration rate along with the vehicle speed for an electric motor powered vehicle with a single gear transmission, and also a plot of acceleration with vehicle speed and also the acceleration distance with respect to the vehicle speed for an electric motor powered passenger car with a single gear transmission. The fuel economy of a vehicle is evaluated by the amount of fuel consumption per 100 kilometer traveling distance. You must have heard about the term mileage, which actually refers to the distance that the vehicle travels measured in miles. The operating fuel economy of a vehicle depends upon several factors, such including fuel consumption characteristics of the engine, gear number, gear ratios, vehicle resistance, vehicle speed, traffic conditions, driver behavior, so on and so forth. The effort to improve the fuel economy of vehicles has always been an ongoing process in the automobile industry. Fundamentally, the techniques used mainly include the aspects of reducing the vehicle resistance. What happens is we're using light materials and advanced manufacturing technologies can reduce the weight of the vehicles, which in turn reduces the rolling resistance and inertial resistance in acceleration and therefore reducing the power demand on the engine. The use of advanced technologies in tire production is another important method in reducing the rolling resistance of the vehicles. Reducing aerodynamic resistance is also quite important at high speeds. This is achieved by using a flow-shaped body style, a smooth body surface and other techniques. Such surfaces, such designs you can see for speed racing cars. Furthermore, improving transmission efficiency can reduce energy losses in transmission. Proper transmission construction, Good improved lubrication, proper adjustment and tightening of moving parts in the transmission and so on will achieve this purpose. The second point, which can be used as a technique to improve the vehicle fuel efficiency, is improving the engine operation efficiency. Improving the efficiency of the engine's operation has great potential to contribute to the improvement of vehicle fuel economy. There are many effective advanced techniques such as accurate air to fuel ratio control with computer controlled fuel injection, high thermal isolated materials for reducing thermal loss, varying ignition timing techniques, active controlled valve and port, and so on. Parameters of the transmission, especially gear number, gear ratios, greatly affect the operating fuel economy. In the design of the transmission, the parameters should be constructed so that the engine operates close to its fuel optimum region. Advanced drivetrains, which you must be seeing in many of the research articles or latest books or also the reports, developed in recent years, such as new power plants, various hybrid drivetrains, etc., greatly improve the fuel economy of the vehicles. Fuel cells have higher efficiency and lower emissions than conventional internal combustion engines. Hybridization of a conventional combustion engine with an advanced electric motor drive may greatly enhance the overall efficiency of vehicles. Now let us look at the braking performance of a typical electric car. The braking performance is one of the most important concerns when it comes to vehicle safety. In urban area, driving a significant amount of energy is consumed in braking. In recent years, more and more electric drives have been involved in vehicle traction, such as electric vehicles, hybrid electric vehicles, and fuel cell powered vehicles. The electrification of the vehicle drivetrain makes it feasible to recover some of the energy lost in braking. Nevertheless, braking performance is still the first concern when it comes to design of a vehicle brake system. When electric vehicle is introduced for braking energy recovery, mechanical braking using friction is still required to ensure that the vehicle stops quickly. Consequently, a hybrid braking system was developed. The design and control objectives of such a hybrid braking system are: first, sufficient braking force to quickly reduce the vehicle speed; second, proper distribution of the braking force on the front and rear wheels to ensure the stability of the vehicle during braking; and the third point is recovery of as much braking energy as possible. Braking force. The function of the vehicle brake system is to reduce the vehicle speed quickly while keeping the vehicle traveling direction stable and controllable under various road conditions. These stability requirements are satisfied by applying sufficient braking force on the wheels and properly allocating the total braking force on the front and rear wheels. The figure which you are seeing right now is a wheel which acts during the braking. That's why you see a brake torque TB acting on it. The brake pad is pressed against the brake plate hydraulically or pneumatically, thereby developing a frictional torque on the brake plate. This braking torque results in a braking force in the tire ground contact area. It is just this braking force that tries to stop the vehicle. This braking force is expressed mathematically as the ratio of the braking torque and the effective radius of the rolling wheel. The braking force increases with an increase in the braking torque, as you can see from the figure, from the mathematical expression, they are directly proportional. However, when the braking force reaches the maximum braking force that the tire ground adhesion can support, it will not increase further, although the braking torque may still increase, as can be seen in the figure. The maximum value of the braking force limited by the adhesive capability can be expressed as mu, the adhesion coefficient, versus the W. The mu is the adhesive coefficient of the tire ground contact. Similar to the traction case, the adhesive coefficient mu varies with the slipping of the tire. Hence, it is required here that we now define slip in braking. It is defined as 1 minus r omega divided by the velocity v, the vehicle speed v as a percentage value. V is the vehicle's translational speed, omega is the wheel rotation speed, and r is the radius of the wheel. Now, if you will see from this expression of slip that if we put omega equal to 0, the slip becomes 100%. That is, the vehicle is completely locked here. And in the figure, there is a plot which shows the relationship between the braking torque and the braking force. And as we can see that after at a particular point, even if you increase the torque, the braking force reaches a saturated value, the maximum value, which is given as mu into W. Similar to what we have seen in our previous slides, here we are looking into the forces acting on a vehicle during braking on a flat road. Rolling resistance and aerodynamic drag are ignored in this figure because they are quite very small compared to the braking forces. Similar approach that we used in traction effort and resistance forces calculation in the previous slide is adopted for a deceleration calculation. In the figure where you are seeing the small j is the deceleration. The maximum braking force is limited by the tire ground adhesion and is proportional to the normal load acting on the tire, as you can see from the figure. Deceleration of the vehicle during braking depends upon the braking forces which are acting on the front wheel and also on the rear wheel. The braking force acting on the front wheel is regarded as FBF, as you can see, and the braking force which is acting at a point B of the rear wheel is regarded as FBR. The actual braking force developed by the brake torque should also be proportional to the normal load so that both the front and rear wheels obtain their maximum braking force at the same time. Otherwise, instability will occur. During braking, there is load transfer from the rear axle to the front axle. By considering the equilibrium of movements about the front and rear tire ground contact points A and B, as you can see from the figure, the normal loads on the front and rear axles WF and WR with a vehicle deceleration rate J can be calculated. And there are mathematical expressions for it. When the braking is strong, both front and rear wheels obtain their maximum ground braking force, that is the FB max, which is limited by the capability of the tire ground adhesion. Please do note that the wheel lock for non-anti-lock brake system ABS or by the activation of the ABS which prevents the braking force from rising so that the wheels don't become locked. In this case, the vehicle achieves its maximum deceleration rate. Here as an exercise, I encourage all the students to find out if front wheels should be locked first or the rear wheels should be locked first or both the wheels should be locked simultaneously, and what is the reason behind it. There is mathematical explanation too for the question, for the answer of the question that I have asked you. You can find this in the book by Ehsani that has already been shared with you. These are the books that have been shared with you, and these are the books that I have followed while developing these lectures. Thank you very much. Any query regarding this course, any comments, you can mail it to my email ID. Thank you very much.